Well, hello again, you're watching Northmore Photography. It's my mission to inspire the photographic community of passing on my knowledge, passion and skills. I'm a photographic judge, collector and workshop leader based in South West England. You can subscribe anytime, you can hit the button or the watermark below and tick the bell icon. And please don't forget to comment. Before I get into this video, I feel like I kind of owe you an apology and an explanation. I'm behind with my posting schedule, so sorry. And the reason isn't one of laziness, it's just plain old lack of time. See, I've been working on my channel rather than making new content and playing with the branding and adding a trailer, just making things a bit more professional and slicker. I'm also feeling a bit guilty as the other reason is the weather. It's supposed to be pouring down with rain today, but as you can see, it's not actually that bad. Maybe I'll check the forecast for tomorrow. So I'm at risk of boring you now, so let's get straight into today's video. So sometimes I find myself sat in front of the computer with a photograph I've taken and high hopes for it. Then when I'm trying to do the edit, I've got no idea what to do. Maybe that happens to you sometimes and you can share your comments below. But luckily that's not going to happen today. I produce these videos hoping that by sharing you will get some idea for how to process your own photographs. So join me in Photoshop, we're going to import a raw file and then go through the process to a finished photograph. I will show you nik, silver and colour effects and my own way of adding a vignette and warming a black and white image. It's just like in the old days in my darkroom, bringing a little bit of developing magic back to the screen. So let's go into Photoshop. So my edits for this image started on Adobe Lightroom Classic, but for this video we're starting in Adobe Camera Raw. It's virtually the same as the develop interface inside Lightroom. I'm not going to go into my edits in Lightroom this time, but maybe this video would help you, and if you want to have a look at it then I'll put the links up at the end. So why start here? If I'm not going to show you anything, what's the point? Well, all my images actually start in RAW, and then regardless of how they are edited I open them as a smart object in Photoshop. So maybe you do the same, and if you do I'd like to hear your comments and see how you start your editing processes in the comments below. So let's close Camera Raw and go straight into Photoshop. So to make things a little less confusing, I've reset my workspace to the Essentials default setting. By doing that, everybody can sort of follow this and start at the same point as I am. So I've already edited this photograph, but so I can show you my process, I've switched off all the layers containing the edit, so we can start at the beginning and work forward from there. So before we start editing a photograph, I find it helpful to know what it is I'm trying to achieve, and that's why getting it right in the field is so important. Having that creative vision at the point of pressing the shutter button. So my first edit is going to be Nik Silver Effects. So let's open up this layer and see what it is I've actually done. Okay, so sometimes I use the presets down here on the left hand side. But normally I just use these for ideas to give me a point at which I want to start at. And as I said previously, it's really important when you're out in the field to have an idea of what you really want this image to look like. And in this case I knew I wanted a really sort of high key image. So I'm going to close these down because I don't really need them this time. It gives us a bit more space. So let's go through the edits on the right hand side, and we're going to start with the global adjustments first. So here in global adjustments we have made a few adjustments to the brightness, increasing the brightness slightly to get the high key effect. But I've also dropped the midtones and the shadows just so they retain some depth and sort of strength to them, because I want a fairly graphic sort of high key image. I haven't really done a lot with the contrast or anything other than sort of amplify the whites, because I don't want more contrasty blacks or midtones. I just want those brights to come through and be really nice and clear. So that's what I've done in that area. Now one trick I like to do is, rather than sort of just globally apply structure, it's nice sometimes to apply it to different tonal ranges. So what I've done is I've reduced the structure in the highlights, so it makes the highlights a bit softer and bleed off into the background a bit more and just take away some of that definition. And what that's allowed me to do is to also increase the structure in the midtones and the shadows. So these trees here in the foreground stand out a little bit more, and we soften the background and the grasses. So let's just turn on those adjustments so you can see the effect. And there instantly we get this much sort of more contrasty image with a soft background and these trees standing out. So that's kind of achieved our objective. So let's work on our selective adjustments. So down here with our selective adjustments, I'm selecting this area down here, just these trees, and all these little orange dots actually show us somewhere where we put a point that we can understand it. So we can just see what they look like, we're just going to turn them on for you briefly, and then you'll be able to see the area that we've selected. So everything in white is selected, and everything going out to black isn't affected by the changes that we're making. So what changes have we made? Well, we've adjusted we've amplified the blacks a little bit, we've increased the whites, we've adjusted the structure, and again we've made some edits to the brightness as well in there as well, but just globally now on these trees to bring them out any more. So let's apply those and we'll see that make it change. There we go. So we've also got colour filters which we can adjust in here as well, and those really sort of relate to the sensitivity of the sensor, sensitivity of the way the software is processing those tonal ranges, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, the greens, and the blues. In my case, I haven't done anything in here because what I like to do is use the film type panel a little bit more. It gives you a little bit more selective control. So what I've actually done down here is I've just increased the yellows. Now increasing the yellows actually allows you to change some of the tonal ranges. So let's just have a look at that. Look. So if we switch that one on and we take the yellows back up, and we can see as we do it, look, how those certain tonal ranges get lighter and darker. We have that up at around 67%, something like that. I'll do. So that's the film type adjustment done. Finishing touches, some of those we're going to go back into Photoshop and do, but you can in this area apply different toning effects. You can apply a vignette if you want to, you can burn in edges, and you can do things with image borders. But for what we're going to do, we're going to get out into Silver Effects now, go back into Photoshop, and then look at our next set of adjustments that we're going to make. Okay, so here we are back inside Photoshop. It may seem a little bit strange to actually decide to use Color Efex Pro 4 and what is a monochrome or black and white image, but there is a filter inside Color Efex Pro which I really like using, and you can apply it both to colour, black and white, monochrome, any sort of images that you want to use. So I'm going to open up Color Efex Pro 4 so I can show you what it is and how I use it. Okay, so here we are inside Color Efex Pro 4. Once again, the same as with Silver Effects, we've got a huge library of different filters and effects down on the left-hand side, and there literally seems to be hundreds of them. And it is worth looking through them and thinking how you can use them in your edits if you have this software yourself. But we're going to close it down because there's only one that I want to talk to you about. And the one I want to talk to you about now is over here. It's called Glamour Glow. Now, you might not initially think that Glamour Glow has got any place or whatsoever in landscape photography, because by its very title you can imagine it's for softening skin tones, it's for adding a certain glow and beauty to some of your sort of portrait and fashion or model type images. But actually it does have a place, because what it is about, it's about adding that sort of soft glow to a picture, and you can saturation and warmth to it that you can't get through other ways. But what I like to do with it is actually make sure that I don't change the saturation at all, which would have very little or no impact at all on a monochrome image anyway. I don't use it to cool down or warm up a picture. I literally want to let those highlights sort of glow in this case. And the way that you can do that is you can decide to get the shadows or the highlights held back. So I use Glamour Glow, and if I switch this on, you'll see the whites just instantly take on this glowing effect and feel to them. But you are able to scale back the shadows or the highlights. So without it done, the shadows look like this. And to be honest, there's no right or wrong way. You may actually prefer this, but for me and for the effect that I'm trying to get, I just bring the shadows all the way up there, and that stops the filter from introducing any sort of effect in the shadow areas. And once again, the highlights, I've just got the highlights up the 0 on the masking so that they will actually have the full effect of the filter. Now you could, if you wanted to, do it selectively, so you could pick out the an area of the picture and you could just add glow to that part. Something I haven't done in this picture, but I can see how it would be really, really useful. So okay, back into Photoshop once more. So here we are back inside Photoshop again. As I said earlier, when I was working inside Silver Efex Pro, I don't really get on that well with any of the standard ways of applying vignettes and darting edges. I prefer to take a bit more of a manual approach to it and do it my own way. So what I tend to do is I set up 4 separate layers, which we show here on the right hand side in this panel. We've got right, left, bottom, top, so they do exactly what they say. We've got a right hand panel, a top one and a bottom one. You should be able to see it on your screen that I've applied a graduated filter to each side of these that I want to affect. So I can simply turn on all of these now and show you the effect, and it is really quite subtle. So here we turn on the top, we turn on the bottom, we turn on the left, and finally the right. And that just sort of gets you to draw your eye from the edges into the center of the image. And that's what it's all about, really. The final bit that I did on it is I wanted to warm up the pictures. So as some of you know, I've got a whole series of images on a recent Lake District photography adventure that I did in the summer. So I'll put a link up to this video at the end as well, so you can watch the whole series. So basically, what I finally did was used a warm-up filter, and I applied that to the main portfolio of the body of the work, so it had some kind of warmth and uniformity across the whole range of the pictures. So I just switched that one on, and what I did to do this was I just picked one of the photo filters and used that as a base starting point for all of those images. Okay, so that's the end of the editing process. Okay, so that's it. I hope that you found that really useful. From raw file to finished warm tone monochrome photograph. I'm pleased with the result. I sat out in the Lake District on a wet, miserable day to shoot those trees at Wasdale Head, hoping to get them standing out against the fells. So next time I hope to be back up on Northmore. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, then please subscribe and don't forget to press that bell icon. Give a thumbs up or thumbs down, and please, most of all, enjoy your photography, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.